Hi, it's January 11th. This is To My Liberal Friends, and this is your host, John Haddo. I want to talk a little bit today about what's going on in the Senate. They come back into session after the holidays this week. Chuck Schumer, the majority leader for the Democrats, has been making a lot of wild statements and saying he's going to change the rules of the Senate. Now, you have to know that he has pushed the Build Back Better bill to the back burner in the Senate. We probably won't see any more of that until late February or early March. They simply don't have the votes to get it through, and Senator Manchin has not budged. And so what Schumer is now talking about is emphasizing the voting rights bill and using the Martin Luther King holiday as key in its timing. Once again, he has a problem getting all the 50 votes. President Biden will be in Georgia today to hype the bill and denounce the Georgia voting rights bill passed by the legislature. Now, I've taken the time to personally read both the Georgia and the Texas bills on voting, and it's nowhere near what Biden and other Democrats have claimed it is. For years, Republicans have said we ought to have a photo ID in order to vote, and of course Democrats have resisted this with all their will and power. They have claimed it's discriminatory against minorities, the elderly, and the poor, that they don't have photo IDs in many cases. With this in mind, Republicans altered what the requirements were. They put out a whole lot of different ways you could identify yourself as a voter. One of those is the last 4 digits of your Social Security number. Now, I would like someone to tell me who doesn't have a Social Security number in this country. The poor need them to get welfare benefits, to get food stamps, to get child tax credits. The elderly need them to get Medicare, to get Medicaid, and to get Social Security benefits. And don't insult people by saying minorities don't have these, because they do. I'm old enough to remember when children didn't have to have Social Security numbers, but today every child has to have a Social Security number to be claimed on a tax return. And so if you're getting those child tax credits, you have to have Social Security numbers. The same is true in Texas. They're allowing the same kind of identification, but still Democrats oppose any form of identification. Schumer has a real dilemma here, though. Manchin and Sinema are opposed to any changes in Rule 22, which is the Senate filibuster rule. Now, he also has a handful of other senators that are getting a little dicey about this. Mark Kelly, Sinema's colleague from Arizona, he's waffled and said he hasn't committed how he's going to change. John Tester from Montana and Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire, they've also expressed some concerns. And the problem for all three of them is they might end up in tough re-election battles and probably don't want to have this ran down their throats during a re-election campaign. I know from talks I've had with friends in D.C. that some Democrats are privately expressing concern about why Schumer would force a vote on something they know is not going to happen. Why make them walk the plank when they don't have to? Now, you have to remember that in 2017, then President Trump asked the majority leader then, Mitch McConnell, to change the rule, and McConnell correctly refused. He said it would alter the character of the Senate, and he was right. Schumer and Durbin and other Democrats at that time made the political show rounds denouncing any change, and then said it was an essential part of the Senate. It was critical to the character of the Senate. It encouraged debate and negotiation. Senator Coons, Biden's Delaware colleague, sent a letter around in 2017 signed by a whole bunch of Democrats saying the rule had to be prevailed. Schumer also seems to have forgotten that he used Rule 22, the filibuster rule, over 250 times during the Trump administration. So now Schumer's considering another option. He would change the rule on the motion to proceed, and this is Rule 14 in the Senate. Under that rule, any senator can object to a time agreement, and therefore they can't proceed. But what Schumer's suggesting is that with 50 votes, you could bypass Rule 14 and bring the bill to the floor and debate it. You would still need 60 votes, the supermajority, to pass the underlying legislation, and basically that would doom any possibility of passage. But this would be one change that he's suggesting. Now, McConnell says if they make that change, and it would be just to force Republicans to vote on some of their bills, He's got a lot of bills that he'd like to bring to the floor under the same rule and force Democrats to make some votes they don't want to take. He'd like to see a vote on the Keystone Pipeline. Remember, Manchin and Sinema both supported it, but Biden killed it by executive order. Senator Cruz already has some form of agreement to vote on the Nord Pipeline from Russia to Germany for energy. Now, it seems odd that we don't want to have a pipeline in our country, but it's okay environmentally for other countries to have pipelines. McConnell says that he'd like to see a vote on payments to illegal immigrants, another vote on vaccine mandates, and certainly a ban on fracking at a time when energy prices are soaring. And there are several other foreign policy issues, including Cuba, Afghanistan, and Iraq, and Iran, that he'd like to see vote on. All of this shows how frantic the Democrats are becoming. The entire Biden legislative agenda is going up in smoke. They realize the odds are they will lose the House in the midterms in November, and quite possibly the Senate. So they want to try and cram everything they can in these short months left before the election, before they run out of a majority. This has been To My Liberal Friends, and I'm John Haddo, and I hope you enjoyed it.